We're not starting the show talking about math again. We're not
Live
doing
from New
it.
York. It's the show that has an odd amount of confidence in the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah,
I'm ready to call it now.
He's saying they get 5 games at home. That's today's math.
Feels like it.
Is in a playoff
Playing
series.
Rudy Gobert. Our number one. No, they're not. They're number one in Jerry Jones' heart because they're the number 2 seed. They would hold on to it with a win in Washington. Here's Jerry Jones, courtesy of 105.3 The Fan. It's so exciting to no end. I just couldn't believe it when Philadelphia ended up losing that ball game this weekend and gave us this opportunity. Nick, how dangerous are the 2-seeded Cowboys that they're not necessarily locked into?
Wildly dangerous. And this is, I think, something we all agree on. In the NFC, who's the best team?
The 49ers.
San Fran.
Nope.
Looks like the
Dallas
best
at home. Dallas at home has been the best team in the NFC
I'd like
this
to
year.
see. Yeah, I mean,
Again, now if they were to play San Fran, Brew, it wouldn't matter. They'd have to be in San Francisco. But the Cowboys' first real hurdle is, S-Bob or not, their first real hurdle is getting to the opportunity to get to the Super Bowl, which they haven't had in 28 years. Getting to the conference championship game. And Dallas, we can show you what they've been at home this year, which is a juggernaut. The NFL ranked number 1 in everything.
What?
Go ahead, Wildes.
I'm not saying anything.
No,
I'm not saying
I know what you're
it.
hinting
I'm
at,
not saying.
Wildes.
Well, I'm not saying. I didn't say it.
You're hinting at.
Yeah.
What are you hinting at?
Well,
They-
I don't
He's
know
loaded up.
exactly, but a lot of those teams that they beat at home are tomato cans.
Okay, but here's the thing,
Except
guys.
Detroit, which they edged.
And
That's a good
Philadelphia,
win.
who they rocked.
Okay, Philadelphia was struggling.
Right, but guys,
having
these
their
are
issues.
teams that this is where I think my and some other people's frustration grows. To get to the NFC title game, who are they going to have to play? Teams that you guys evidently consider tomato cans.
No, not in the playoffs.
No, well, okay, Detroit is a possible team they would have to beat. Philadelphia is a possible team they would have to beat.
You said they're the best team in football at home. They didn't look like that against Detroit.
Okay,
now they won. Give them credit.
They won. They beat Philly at home. They beat the Rams, who they might have to face. They beat Seattle, who they might have to face. What do all those teams have in common? They are NFC playoff teams.
Well,
so what are we talking about?
Nobody's arguing. I agree with you. They are more dangerous to reach what I guess is the goal.
No, I'm
the
starting it
NFC
there.
title game is the goal for some people.
No.
I mean, I don't want to rain on the Cowboys parade. All right, who am I? I'm just a guy from the Midwest that remembers when it was about Super Bowls for the Cowboys. All right, so if we want to get excited and dance and sing about getting to the NFC title game, then I agree with you, Nick. They are more of a threat to get to the NFC title game because they have home field. We know they struggle on the road. I will say this, though, Nick, and I think you'll agree. Detroit, I gained a little more respect. I think you respected them more than I did going into that game.
Yeah.
Detroit, assuming that's who Dallas meets in the second round.
It's not a walkover.
No. I mean, Detroit, forget the call by the official on the 2-point conversion or whatever you want to call it. Detroit, it can be argued, outplayed Dallas. They had more total yards. They had more first downs. They had a better time of possession. They had more sacks. They had more trips to the red zone. Yeah. And but for that 92, which was a great play by Dak and CD.
Also a broken play.
But for that broken play, Dallas had the great drive at the beginning of the fourth quarter to take the lead, and that 92-yard touchdown. And that also
was not a broken
Outside of that,
it was a weird play from the Lions defense when they were playing flag football. I've seen better tackling in flag football.
Right, but it was poor form tackling, but it also took a great play by Dak to not only avoid it, but then make a perfect throw.
But we're talking about one great play and one great drive in the fourth quarter. Outside of that, they didn't get much going.
Except we're also talking about the fact that, again, they one of their best drives of the game, they came as close to scoring as you can without scoring, and I wouldn't normally bring that up, but you guys are talking about this game as if they had lost it. And if we want to parse the bad calls, we can say the reason Detroit even ever got the ball at the end was a terrible tripping call when it was, which is correct.
True.
A terrible tripping call. Dallas would have been taking knees and we wouldn't have talked about any of this. We also know that, right or wrong, Dan Campbell felt so unconfident, pardon me, in his team's evidently ability to beat them in overtime, that he's going for 2 from the 7-yard line. Whatever it is.
I didn't agree with his decision. I don't think it was as bad as you said. You're saying it's one of the worst calls ever. I don't agree with that. I would have kicked the extra point. But I also think he was like, look, we're on the road. We've got our division sewn up. I get it. They could play for seeding. But he's like, let's take our chances in regulation rather than going into overtime when they're
Which I
home.
think you don't normally do if you are confident you're the better team. And so maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was fine on the first one, but but not so much on the second one. But I do think that because the Niners, to their credit, worked Dallas in the regular season this year, we misremember a bit how close the playoff game last year in San Francisco was between these two teams. Yep. And in my opinion, the biggest reason the Cowboys lost that game was because Purdy, to his credit, while I didn't think he played well in that game, didn't turn the ball over, and Dak, to his discredit, did. And if there's anything we can say about Dak this year, is he has gotten back to who he had been every year of his career prior to this year.
He's the best. He's the best he's ever been.
1,000% agree with you. It's the best he's ever played, and the bugaboo of turnovers, while, again, he turned the ball over a bunch in the Niners game in the regular season, he has cleaned that up this year. So the Cowboys, I was trying to impress this point on the audience on Monday, I think the difference between the 2 and the 5 is so overwhelming. And because it sets it up to where they can't have to play the Niners until the NFC Championship game. And we're a lot of football away from that. As opposed to if you're the 5, you probably have to play them
in the second
when they're coming off a bye, rested and as healthy as they can be.
That part is huge. I think look, Philly obviously is in much better shape if they had get the 2 seed. But for Dallas, I think it's even more important for Dallas than it would have been for Philly because of the discrepancy in home and road.
No, listen, I understand that 1/3 of this desk had the Commanders making the playoffs, so they still hold a special place in your heart. Thank you, Brew, for pointing it out.
That was the third.
Here's the reality. Since week 3, this is the worst team in football. Worse than Carolina. Since week 3, this has been the worst team in the NFL. The last time they played the Cowboys, they lost 45-10.
Yep.
I think Jacoby Brissett is a starting quarterback in this league. Now, I don't think he's a high-level starter. It's like
I think Howell's going, though.
Exactly right. That's the point I was about to make. That if you had Jacoby Brissett, who is trying to, audition for teams out there, and maybe there's an overlook factor, and you could maybe convince me that there's a chance that the Cowboys spit this one up. 0%.
There's no chance?
0%.
Can I ask a question? Just jump in?
Yeah.
Who did the Cowboys close their season against last year? Do we remember?
Bingo.
Do you remember, bro?
Yeah.
Who was
These Commanders.
Do you remember the score?
26
What were they
6.
playing?
Do you remember Dak? How many yards Dak had?
Dak played. Tony Pollard played. CD
What
Lamb
were
played.
they-
Dak
Dak
went in
had
there trying to win.
128 yards that game. He played almost the whole game.
they went trying to win.
What
said
did
they were.
they? I'm just curious. What I'm asking
They're out there, dude.
What I'm asking
So
you
they're
is,
out there and not trying is a bigger indictment.
What I'm saying is, if you go into a game and if you win, you're the 5 seed, and if you lose, you're the 5 seed. Which is what Cowboys were last year. It is human nature to be thinking about what's coming next. It is, I think, smart coaching to have the most vanilla game plan possible, not put anything on tape. We all agree on this front. That if the Niners this week, for instance, because they're saying they're going to play their guys, not McCaffrey, if they go out this week and they look uninspired and bad, no one is going to say, that the Niners are in real trouble because they are locked into where they are. I think we all agree on that.
If Brock Purdy goes 14 for 37 for 128 yards, he's going to hear it from you on Monday morning.
How did Dak do the following week after what you're talking about with Washington last year? He had the best playoff game of his career.
Because he rested in week 18.
What do you mean?
He was hanging out.
Okay, all right. Listen, Brew, do you agree with me? The Cowboys are not on upset alert. I don't even know what we're talking about.
Look, I expect the Cowboys to win. I do think.
Thank you.
The 0% chance, I don't agree with you on that. I do think they're on upset alert.
5%?
No, look. It's a division game, which that matters. If you're Washington, this is your last game of the season. So you're like, I mean, look, we know they probably want to get on vacation, all that, but your last game, you're like, we're hyped about it. And we can not ruin Dallas's season, but mess it up.
Yeah.
And what happened last year?
They're
You
not
right.
good.
You are right in that they weren't good last year. They were better.
They were better than they're
probably,
going to have the second
but
pick
they
in the
weren't
draft.
good.
Hope not.
They weren't good last year. And you are right that Dallas has more incentive this year than they did. I
not
give you
even
that.
close.
But it did happen last year.
Thank you.
And Dallas, what is that? Look, Nick, I do make these rules, but they are good rules. On the road, Dallas is what, Wildes?
We don't know.
They're 3-5.
Oh, I thought you wanted a cover.
They're a tomato can. On the road, look, I won't say they're close to a tomato
can adjacent.
That's a great way. The tomato can adjacent. They lost to Arizona, and it wasn't even close. Like, I know you're going to say the next thing is the Eagles just like, at least the Eagles played them close. Dallas lost by 2 touchdowns to Arizona on the road. Dallas was bludgeoned by not only the Niners, but the Bills on the road.
Bludgeoned.
Dallas edged a hapless Chargers team on the road. And Dallas lost to the the Dolphins in Miami on the road.
What are their other
They're the only good team to lose to Miami this year.
Okay,
so I'm just saying on the road, they're vulnerable. So I think they'll win, but 0% chance is no.
Guys, does no one watch Washington with Sam Howell? They've lost 7 straight.
But we watched Dallas on the road, too.
Guys, this is
the Chargers almost beat them.
To Nick's credit, Sam Howell's last few game yards, 169, 56, 102, 127, 300. Against the Cowboys.
What was the score of that game, Wildes? Do you know?
45-10.
45-10. What are you talking about?
Well, Sam Howell's still out there.
All I'm saying, Nick, is there's a chance. Wildes, I think, is picking them.
No,
I'm saying they better have their alert.
14 points.
Red alert.
He's going to end up on Nick's
It would
picks.
be the
watch out for
perfect
Commanders.
encapsulation of this year's upset alert, which is for everything that he didn't steal from you.
Was I not right last
if he were to roll with the Commanders.
Yes.
Well, you didn't
I said the
pick an
Patriots
upset.
would cover because the Bills are kind of like,
That wasn't an upset alert, buddy.
It's literally the definition of upset alert.
Let's move
You're
on.
Mr.
This
Semantics.
This honestly
It's
was
alert.
a waste of our audience's
It's not
valuable
called
time.
outright win. Let's jump ahead to the playoffs. Super Bowl odds. San Francisco's at 1, Baltimore's at 2. Dallas, then it's Buffalo and Kansas City tied at 4. Philly bringing up the rear. As we all know, Cowboys are SBOB. We also know they haven't made a conference championship since I was a senior in high school and was listening to Redman's Muddy Waters CD, the literal CD. So what happens if the Cowboys fall flat?
You can't run it back. And Dak's not. So
What does
here's
that
the
mean?
deal. I'm about to explain it.
Well, I mean,
I'm about to explain it.
Tell me more.
Let it breathe a moment.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
Listen, Dak's about to get, and I talked about it before the year started, that if Dak played well this year, he was going to sign a contract that makes people's eyes pop this offseason. He's getting it, no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be, my guess is, 4 years, around $240 million, with around close to $200 million guaranteed. It's going to be the best quarterback contract ever, and that's for reasons of they can't franchise him, all this stuff. So
he played it perfectly.
He has contractually, he has played every step of his career perfectly, maximized his dollars in a way we've really only seen Kirk Cousins do. So he's back. So if they, to me, fall flat means don't make at least the conference championship game.
I agree.
We don't have to do the SBOB, NFCG, Bob, or whatever.
I agree with you.
But that means, we now know what that would mean. That would mean they either lose in round 1 to Tampa, Atlanta, or New Orleans, or they lose in round 2, all of these would be at home, to Detroit, the Rams, or Philadelphia. All 3 teams they beat in the regular season, and it would be at home. If that happens, I would not think that Mike McCarthy's job should be safe. I think the team is too good, and Brew, let me show you something, if I may. Under the auspices of, let's assume, I know Wildes thinks it's crazy, let's assume they beat the frisky Commanders this weekend.
Maybe
3 straight 12-win seasons. This is when it's happened, okay? So here's what I want to focus on. So go from the bottom up. The Dolphins made a Super Bowl in that run. It's the only Super Bowl Dan Marino made. The Niners didn't, but they had just won a Super Bowl a couple years prior. And by the way, they did have a coaching change. Seifert left, and the reason it ended was Steve Young's career ended. The Broncos went to or went to 2 Super Bowls and won them. The Eagles went to their only Super Bowl under Andy Reid there. The Saints, again, they didn't. They had the terrible DPI call in the NFC title game, and they had already been there with Peyton and Breeze. The Packers didn't, and that was, and by the way, Rodgers then left. The Cowboys went to 3, and then you guys can see the rest of it. All those teams were, either dynasties or mini dynasties or something close to it. So my point is this. It would be basically without precedent to be this successful in the regular season with a coach-quarterback combo and to never pay it off. And we're not even talking, I'm not saying if they don't make the Super Bowl, they got to fire McCarthy. I'm saying if they don't even make, round 3. So, yeah, I think if they fall flat, which I do not think they will, you have to make a fundamental change.
So are you because at first you I like the way you worded it with McCarthy's job wouldn't be safe. Meaning it's not a definite firing, but it's on the table now.
Oh, I'd fire him and I'd call Belichick.
Definite?
I'd fire him and call Robert Kraft.
He just stole my. That was my take.
I'll play along.
Because you're firing the winningest coach in your last 28 years.
It's actually Nora Princiotti's take that I stole, but I credited her.
I was gonna say Belichick.
Yeah.
Now, can Belichick and Jones coexist?
Yeah, for a short
Quick
period
answer,
of time.
no.
Yeah.
Obviously not.
He and Jimmy did.
I don't think. Look, I do believe this. I don't think Belichick going to another team. I don't think he necessarily has to have control of the players.
Yes.
All right. He might just be. In New England is one thing. Somewhere else, he might just be cool coaching.
I'll buy that.
Yeah.
They don't need that much change. Now, what they do need, I would, if they fall flat, I would bulk up the defense a little bit because they get run on too much.
How
they
about
get pushed around a little bit.
the greatest defensive coach ever?
Right.
Yeah.
No, I feel you on that. I would get a running back to a meat eater, so to speak. Tony Pollard went from 5 yards a game for his career to now he's at 4. He needs somebody to just get beat on a little bit to soften up that defense. Outside of that, I was thinking, man, McCarthy's won 12 games, 3 straight years, we presume. How do you fire him? But if I could get Belichick?
Well, and it assumes the playoff. Listen, if they lose in round 1, it's an abject disaster.
Of course.
And the context of losing in round 2 at home, then there is all of a sudden almost you have to reorder the conference in your brain. Because the only teams they could be playing in round 2 are other than the teams they would have beaten in round 1. Philly, it's like, all right, Philly's in free fall, and they're still ahead of us. They're in our own division. The Rams went to a Super Bowl 1, did a soft rebuild, and now we're back again further than we've been. Or it's like, God dog it, Detroit jumped us in line.
Right.
And so in that way, because the Niners are, in this scenario, the king of the mountain theoretically, even though I guess Philly deserves that station. And then it's like, wait, are we second in our own division and 5th in our own conference, and we're just going to run it back?
You remember when the Cowboys signed Trey Lance? Jerry got on the radio. It's like the reason why we operate so smoothly is we can make the decision super fast. I think he made that decision with giving Mike McCarthy the heads up. Do you think Bill Belichick is going to be in a situation
3 years,
where someone else?
3-year deal.
I think
he can win right away. No,
I think Bill. Can we have
what's
40
a better
more
place
seconds?
to go?
Exactly.
For Belichick?
I think that Wildes. I think Bill Belichick is a smart man. And I think if this offseason the Patriots are moving on and he surveys the landscape and it's like, well, the places that will give me full control do not have anything close to a quarterback in place. Yeah. The places that I will get control, maybe the Chargers will do it. Maybe if he wants to move all the way on the West Coast for ownership that is not, he doesn't.
Right.
So it's like, okay, I will have to give something. But it is a winnable division. It is the marquee franchise. I'm guaranteed to get Shula's record, and I might peel a Super Bowl. Like that, there are a lot of very appealing things there. That if they fall flat. Now they're going to the Super Bowl, so none of this is all. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.